So we won't discuss memory loss too terribly much anymore.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Good happy Martin Luther King Day morning to you.
Yes, and same to you. And we're actually early.
We are early. We're early. We are a little early.
But we're also starting an hour earlier.
Okay, let's see if I can get my controls working. There we go. Controls are working. Everybody didn't have to hear me. Carol is with us today. Hi, Carol Kochova. How are you?
Hey, Carol.
Okay, I'm not going to name everybody's names, Inez. Because I don't want to sound like, what was her name? Miss Marianne, Miss Romper Room. Yeah. So anyhow, thank you all for making our 9 a.m. We're going to do this early so you can get on with your day or maybe catch those other really good 10 o'clock webinar things out there. Yeah. And, we've already got 10 people on here, so we're doing pretty good for being right on time at 9 o'clock. And hopefully we tried another little format here on Zoom. Hopefully we look a little clearer, could be a little scarier because it's a holiday. Lori looks so nice. Me, not so much. But do you have any big plans for the holiday, Lori?
No, just, work from home because we're not closed today, even though recording offices, I believe, are closed today, but we're open. Yeah. We're open for business. So yeah, lots to do.
That and also, it's also like National Day of Service whenever it's Martin Luther King Day. So, if there was anything that somebody is doing out there to help serve their community, help make the world a little bit better, more power to you. Me today can't say that I'm doing that other than sharing nerdy real estate goodness with our group of professionals here. So let's see, what kind of nerdy news do we have that we're a little less caffeinated than we usually are?
Yeah, a little less caffeinated than normal. Well, we do have a great webinar tomorrow that Orange County Realtors is hosting on the new laws. And so we have been talking about new laws on Nerdy Realtors here since probably November. And all along, I've given you tidbits about the laws, little key points that I found interesting. But, our advice here when it comes to these new laws certainly doesn't replace hearing it from the experts, which is CAR Legal. And so OCR is hosting Gov Hutchinson tomorrow. Lisa, do you know the time?
I want to say 10 o'clock.
Let me double check.
Wait a second. It's 22nd, isn't it? Isn't it Friday?
Tomorrow. Oh, you're right. It is Friday. Well, there was something with the 2021 that got me screwed up, and I don't even know what the date is today. So yeah, you're right. It is on Friday, the 22nd. It's from 10 to 11:30. And so I would strongly encourage everyone, if you haven't watched it yet, if you haven't attended one of their sessions yet, you should really attend. They also have it recorded on CAR's website because Neil Kalin and some of the other great attorneys from CAR Legal from the hotline also did maybe an hour and a half session back in December. So that's recorded and online. But if you want the latest and greatest, Gov is presenting it this week. So when I attended Friday's CAR town hall meeting, I've mentioned that many times over the last several months that I attend those. They're hosting them every other week now. So, we don't have as many changes to the COVID regulations as we did earlier on. And so they're only hosting them every other week. And so the first probably hour was covering the new laws. And when I say covering them, I mean, they're starting from the basics, which is a lot of what we've covered here already. And then they take some questions and answers. And so they talked about the AB 685, which is reporting of anyone infected with COVID in the workplace. So again, I encourage you to watch their sessions, but I'll give you a couple little key things that I found interesting and took note of. Basically, Jana hosted at this time instead of Gov. He wasn't there. So Jana, one of their other attorneys, was there. And she mentioned that they are getting calls every day on the hotline now regarding what do we do when someone in our office has reported exposure or that they're sick. And so the obligation is specific. It's not just, hey, I might have come in contact with someone. The obligation for the broker or the employer is if a qualified individual receives a positive test, and they define qualified individual in their Q&A, but it's basically someone who's received a positive test or someone who has been ordered to isolate. There may be one other item that's very similar, like someone within your household, because then it's presumed you will probably get the virus. Then you are required to report it to anyone you may have come in contact with. And if you're the broker or the employer, then you need to put everyone else on notice within 1 day that there has been somebody that's reported a positive exposure or a positive test. And so you cannot identify the person. And we know, like in small groups, it may be easy to identify the person, but you're not supposed to identify the person. But basically, you know, if that person came into the office, say on Monday, and they notified you on Wednesday, then you have until Thursday to notify anyone who may have been in contact with that person on Monday that they might have been exposed. So, you know, it's not just, hey, you know, I have it, I never come into the office, but I'm letting my broker know, and then the broker telling everybody. It's when would they have had some exposure. So like in our case, we have an office. If we were all regularly going into the office, even individually, which we're not doing, I mean, it's literally once a week, one of us goes and checks mail. So we're never all there together. We're never all there even within the same week, but let's say that that was the case. If we happen to each stop by on Monday and someone lets us know Wednesday that they are positive, then I need to report to everybody who was exposed on Monday when that person was in the office that they may be exposed. So the rule is pretty specific, and CAR has a legal Q&A on that. So it's pretty helpful. I can throw the link in later. And then they talked about Prop 19, and they're still waiting on some legislative implementations, but they did state that the Board of Equalization issued a statement and that their interpretation is the same as CAR's. So I won't go into any more detail on it because it's rather complicated, and they're working on getting a copy of the opinion letter, so you know they can post either excerpts from it or the actual letter so that we have it for reference. But they do have a new Q&A on the intergenerational transfers, so I would encourage you to check that out. And then they talked about SB 1079, which is the post foreclosure first right of refusal. That one's way too complicated. I'm not even gonna go there, but it was talked about. So watch the Q&A. And then the home hardening, we've talked about quite a bit here. So the couple of things that I really wanted to go over is the broker-owned escrows and the qualified substitute. So to comply with the FERPTA requirements, it's a good reminder that broker-owned escrows cannot be a qualified substitute. So broker-owned escrow is an escrow company owned by the brokerage, and they can only do their own transactions. So they are essentially they're not a party to the transaction, but they can't be a qualified substitute because it's their client. And so title can be the qualified substitute, or the seller can simply provide the social security number. And if they don't, then the buyer needs to withhold the taxes. And they gave an example that the IRS actually knocked on a buyer's door and said, hey, guess what? That seller was required to withhold and did not. And so you're on the hook for it. So don't have the details of what happened next, but they did come knocking on the buyer's door. So if you're in a transaction and you are representing the buyer, you know, it's your obligation to make sure they get the information they need Otherwise, the obligation is on them to withhold. And we often take it for granted that escrow does this for us. And so we don't think about it, we don't worry about it, but we do need to pay attention to it. And I just realized that I've like talked super fast and moved from topic to topic. I didn't give you a chance, Lisa, if you had any comments, thoughts, or anything on anything I've covered.
I do, but it's kind of shooting off of one of the things that you talked about, which was you talked about the COVID situation in offices. What should we do if we're taking a listing and we find out that the seller has recently had COVID? At what point is it okay to show the to take the listing and show the property?
So the Q&A, I was reading it this morning. It talks, the Q&A on this specific topic, the AB 685, it talks about the timing that's identified by the Department of Health. And let me pull it up real quick. I think I still have it on my screen. It talks about very specifically what those timeframes are. And so give me 1 second. You know, you have to use good judgment, obviously, and you want to make sure that you are allowing enough time to pass so that there's no concern. But let me click over real quick and I don't have any more filler words, so.
No worries. I think this is something that we're going to be running into more, you know, with the numbers, how high the numbers have been. You know, I know personally, I'm kind of asking this on a personal basis because I do have some clients that are recovering, and I told them, I said, I'm not even talking to you until you hand me negative test results for every person in your house, because I want to be super duper sure that they are done with this and we have time for the house to air out and the germs to disappear and go away and whatever else they can do before they get a full Lysol bath. And maybe then I'll get my listing paperwork together because I'm not doing it before.
Yeah, so, you know, we heard so many conflicting time frames, not even just early on, but throughout the entire year. And as we each spoke to someone who may have potentially been exposed, you know, the questions came up. Well, when does the clock actually start? So according to this Q&A, which is dated January 12th, they are referencing that the time a COVID-19 positive person is infectious, as defined by the State Department of Public Health as of January 3rd, 2021. The infectious period means. So this is the latest and greatest from the State Department of Public Health on what infectious period means. And it says, for an individual who develops symptoms, the infectious period begins 2 days before they first develop symptoms. The infectious period ends when the following criteria are met. So 1, 10 days have passed since symptoms first appeared, and at least 24 hours have passed with no fever, without the use of fever-reducing medications, and other symptoms have improved. So all 3, 10 days have passed since the symptoms first appeared, 24 hours has passed without a fever, and other symptoms have improved. So that's if you develop symptoms, that's your infectious period. 2 days before you first develop your symptoms, and that 10-day criteria, 24 hours with no fever and other symptoms improving. And then it further says, for an individual who tests positive but never develops symptoms, the infectious period for COVID-19 begins 2 days before and ends 10 days after the specimen for their first positive test for COVID was collected. So that's if you test. So that's the infectious period as defined by the State Department of Health. So in this case, you know, you've got somebody that has tested positive. I don't know that we can require them to provide negative tests. We certainly can ask, and then it's up to them. The reason I don't know, you know, there's no ruling that says you can require it. And I'll give you a good example. I know someone that lived in a household where one person tested positive, 4 adults living in this household. One person tested positive. The other 3 went and tested the same day and all tested negative. So they isolated the one person into a single bedroom and, you know, put food at the door, ran away, let her open the door, grab the food, put the dishes out, etc. But they had to all share the same shower. So there was potential for exposure because when she would come out to shower, they're all using that shower. They only had 1 shower, 2 bathrooms, but only 1 shower. So she went through, you know, her infectious period and tested and was negative. The others in the household tested and were also still negative. Now, one of the 3 that tested negative, their employer required proof of negative test. The other employer didn't ask for anything. So, you know, there's no consistency with how, because there's no law, there's no specific guideline that says this is what you can and cannot do. And I bet you people would argue, well, it costs a lot of money. I mean, this household, you know, to get the rapid test, they had to spend the money and it was like $80 a pop. So you go in for the first one and then, you know, your follow-up one, you know, $160 later, that's a lot of money. Now, you know, I've heard there's free ones. I don't know anyone that's gotten a free one because everyone that's told me they've tested, they paid for it. So I don't know. I haven't had to go get tested, so I don't know the reasoning on that. But as far as like then the cleaning of the house, you know, you did a great job with giving them instruction. You know, that house thoroughly needs to be cleaned for everyone's benefit and everyone's peace of mind.
Exactly. Well, and also Inez puts in the comments here, which is really good. Also, a friend of mine who has COVID, had her doctor say that once you are clear of symptoms, you can still be shedding and can infect others for 14 days. Wow. So
after being clear of symptoms, so that's a long time.
That is a long time. And then says a friend sent me a copy of the doctor release. It said that you can test positive when not contagious. You know, this is kind of an interesting situation because I'm sure many in our group have already faced this. This is the first time that I faced it. And it's like, you know, liability wise, yeah, I want proof that nobody in the house is testing positive anymore. That's just for my well-being. They're making enough money on this house that if they have to go out and test 2 or 3 times, guess what? They're gonna get the money back for that because they be liable too.
Yeah, they could be liable, and this could be a case where we may have to go back to what we did in the beginning, which is, all right, seller, you're going to be doing a virtual tour, and you're maybe going to be hosting online with me an online showing, an honest to goodness online showing, video showing, rather than us dragging people through the house in these early stages where we think you might be clear.
Yeah. And I'm basically just pushing it off. You know, I want the time for everybody to know with a clear conscience because the same group needs to go buy a house. So I don't want to be trotting a group through that still could be possibly shedding virus because, you know, that's on me. And so, you know what? They were like, come on, we need to get this going. I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't. We can wait.
Right. Right.
And Jeff puts in a good thing, establish protocol for your office and your listings now. And, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, yeah, I think now we will.
Well, we do have something, and we have it from early on, and it was guidance that was issued by the state. You know, the state issued the reopening guidelines, so we followed those protocols, and we have maintained our protocols for our office and our showing instructions. However, we haven't had an actual situation. And so, you know, I think it's always something where you say, well, on paper, it looks good. Okay, now it's real life. So is this enough?
Yeah. And that's exactly where we are at this point, because it's like, you know, I've had many listings, many clients, you know, since the shutdown last March. And this is the first time I've had this situation happen. But then again, everybody's circle's getting a lot smaller right now. I mean, what are they saying? 1 in 5 in LA County are testing positive at this point. And, you know, I don't know what the numbers are for Orange County or throughout the state, but, you know, that's a 20% chance anybody you're running into is, you know, positive. Granted, those are people getting tested, but then again, we don't know who's running around out there asymptomatic either, which is really kind of freaky. But, you know, I think it's something for, you know, maybe the word to the wise here is if you don't have a policy established for your office, assume you are going to run into somebody who has tested positive that's going to want to enlist your services. What do you do? What's your plan? What do you do? And as you can see, we're formulating ours now because this is new. It's a new thing. And, you know, that's kind of where we are. But I think it's the new reality, unfortunately. And, you know, we just have
a lot of the focus of the policies that we have in place have been for if a buyer that goes through the house or a vendor that goes through the house informs us that they've tested. You know, so it's a little different when it's your seller and you're not, and if you're listed already, it's easy because then it's like, now we stop, we notify everybody. But in this case, you haven't even gone on the market yet. So it is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's, you know, you got to be able to just roll with the punches nowadays. I mean, that's really all we can do. Because, you know, we're still seeing new stuff every day. You know, I mean, honestly, you know, you think we're all COVIDed out and we're still running into new things every day. And, you know, it's an interesting world we live in. That's about all I can say.
And, you know, I went to go visit somebody over the weekend and it's like you're driving around and everything looks open. And so we literally stopped and said, wait a minute, the restaurants are not open yet, right? And we both looked at each other like, yeah, that was each of our understanding. The stay-at-home order and the no dining out or dining outdoors was announced at the same time, but neither of them have been lifted. And so I literally was Googling last night because I'm like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I missed it. Like maybe, because I swear, like every restaurant I would drive by, there's outdoor dining. And that was throughout the county. So, you know, it's a good reminder that we are still on the stay-at-home order. And I don't know about you, but I know at my house, November and December, I didn't get flyers on my door. I got 3 last week, 2 from real estate companies and 1 from, I think it's like a pot shop or something. I was like, I don't even know what this means. But you get a flower. You get a flower.
Anybody who's 420 friendly, you know.
It's like, I might have thrown it away. Yeah, I threw it away. It's like,
she kept it handy just in case.
No, my trash can's right here. Refer a friend and you get a free flower. I was like, this doesn't look like a floral shop, so it must be something else. Not my circle, not my world. So so I was kind of annoyed last week that, you know, 3 different people thought it was okay to put flyers on my door, on my screen door, on my floor, you know, on the front steps. So not okay. Not okay with that.
It really, I mean, it's really kind of amazing. There's one agent in my area and everybody else is mailing. The whole other 2 agents are mailing. Yeah, but in my neighborhood, there's one and that person's dropping and that person held a neighborhood garage sale and that person held a shredding event. And it's like, you know, that ain't so cool. But
not cool.
You know, I mean, there's only so much one can do. And yeah,
exactly. Okay. Any other questions on that topic?
Anybody? Jeff said, did she say she's crazy? Are you talking about Lori or are you talking about me? Because if it's me, we all know the answer. Lori, no, you know, that's debatable. It just depends on the day of the week and how much time she spent around me.
I think I did say maybe I'm crazy. And actually, I think I said it before this call too. So I don't know, maybe I'm crazy today.
Well, Jeff called you out, just so you know.
And thank you, Jeff. Can always count on you for things like that.
Well, speaking of crazy, I'm going to bring up something crazy I saw. There's, I'm in this group and that group on Facebook. I've been trying not to spend a whole lot of time on Facebook because that in itself is crazy. And I did go into a couple of real estate groups. Oh, he said, yes, both and with love. So
we know.
Jeff loves a crazy gal. Okay, so and Inez says it's also good to add into the MLS after you add all the standard COVID verbiage. Showings may be arranged subject to the conditions and restrictions in place at that time relating to the COVID-19 virus. Good addition.
Language, yep.
Very good. Okay, back to the crazy post. There was a crazy post I saw. And let me see, I took a picture of it. So I'll try not to read it verbatim, because then other people will know where I got this crazy post. Let's see. It's regarding Zillow. And it's, are we just going to watch our ship sink? Who's on the committee? Do something, please. Okay.
What committee?
Don't know. It's the committee. The committee, let's see. MLS says it stops to provide info to Zillow for rentals today. Zillow announced, welcome to Zillow Rentals. My rental clients are sending me a list of homes that they want to see. 90% of them are not on the MLS, but on Zillow. Guess what's the next step is going to be for Zillow? Welcome to Zillow iBuyers. Well, I guess this person's a little behind the curve because that's already out there. They're a brokerage now and will be working like a salary, like Uber drivers for Amazon. I don't know. There's more. There's more. But
like a late night post, like the middle of the night.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. And then somebody commented, wonder if it pays to still be a dues paying realtor. Are they selling us out to the highest bidder? Another one said, I couldn't agree more. They're going to take the place of agents. We can't even opt out of letting them share our listings. Very unfair to all agents. We need to pay Zillow now for our rentals. There's two things that are kind of crazy about this post. One is, could this possibly be an antitrust violation, bringing something about one brokerage into a discussion like that with other professionals? What do you think, Lori?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a slippery slope. Any one person can absolutely cross the line. There are certain things you're not allowed to talk about, but there are other things when it comes to almost suggesting a boycott of a company, that is an absolute violation. So it is definitely a concern. I mean, we talked about this here either just before or just after we had Ed Zorn from CRMLS come on and talk about this topic. Our industry changes all the time and we get new competition all the time. And so I'm not sure, who they think the committee is, but anybody can be a brokerage. So, there's no committee that says, well, you were not a brokerage, so therefore you can never be a brokerage. So that's just a little silly. They don't quite understand how the world works, but
I don't really think there's a committee out there that's going to restrict trade.
Right. Yeah, that's not us. So it's against the law. So, we have to be able to recognize that the industry will keep changing. There will be new brokerages that come about. People will come and go. People will move brokerages. And our job is to just do the work. And so, if you are publicly talking about another company, you're going to get in trouble. You're very well going to get in trouble. Somebody's going to at least point it out as a potential violation. And whether it is or is not is going to be up to whoever reviews it. But, those are not good things. It doesn't make you look good either as a professional to be slamming anyone else, any other company.
Well, and also too, it makes the poster look like, well, where have you been? This has been discussed for what, like 6 weeks or something at this point. And yeah. Also too, from the antitrust standpoint, now that they're a brokerage, it could even be worse than being a third-party aggregator of information like they were before. Because now you're talking about another brokerage.
Yeah, it's a competitor, and you're are you banding together to restrict their efforts? No, but you're certainly talking about it and suggesting that they are not worthy, they're not as good as anyone else, and we shouldn't interact with them. And as far as the leases, Ed made that pretty clear when he described it on our session, that part of the MLS rules allow for certain property types, certain listing types to not feed on a website, and that's what they opted to do. So, if I recall, Zillow had the availability of homeowners to just put their leases on before this. So this isn't any different. Now, whether those are listed by agents or not, maybe they are, but it doesn't matter because they have the opportunity to do that if they want to place it there. So whether anyone likes it or not, it's allowed. And now CRMLS and the other MLSs across the country have the ability to monitor them more closely and make sure that they are complying with the rules, just like they would do to us.
Exactly.
So in that regard, it's made it an equal playing field. So
yeah, I'm in agreement on that because now they have to abide by the same rules that we have to. And on the leases, I have the client out looking for leases, and we were trying to find something in the MLS, and I just told her flat out, I'm just like, you know what, you're going to need to look everywhere you can. This is an all hands on deck moment. You need a house. I only have a limited supply. I don't care where you find it. Just go get yourself a house, and over a few hundred.
We had that problem before, that the MLS only contains so much because some people will go directly to those other sources. Property management companies, will advertise on other sources and not necessarily advertise on the MLS. And I'm not trying to isolate property management companies, but that's another example of there are certain ways to do business that doesn't always land where we have our eyes, where we have our access.
And as far as leases are concerned, go. I just want you to have somewhere to move. I don't care about a couple $100, and she ended up finding somebody on Zillow, and it was an agent who posted a listing, and is like, more power to you. One thing I know, I did see a few people talk about the removal of their Zillow reviews that they had gotten over the past couple of years when they went to the IDX, that was removed. But it would be strange for them to keep you.
Yeah, I don't know anything about how that worked.
Yeah, that's one of those things. If you were really living off of your Zillow reviews, it's time to take your advertising budget elsewhere. Probably would be the best thing to say, and I don't know, I don't know if you can go back and get those. Hopefully you got screenshots of them, so you can, you can take a review that somebody gives you from one site, and you can post it anywhere you want to post it, because once that review's been posted about you, that is your review. And what do they say? Social media is rented ground. Anything on social media, you do not own it. You own nothing. You get to put something on somebody's site, but that, in the Zillow situation is a perfect case. That was rented space, and now they're like, no, we're taking our property back, adios, and now those are gone. But
and it would be quite ironic if the people that are complaining that happened to them are the same people complaining that, well, why do they get to be a brokerage now? It's like, we can't have it both ways. You can't focus on one benefit and then complain about, what you perceive as against the whole industry, and then, want everything. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly. And I guess really what, the moral of the story is go out and be innovative yourself. Go out there and come up with your own thing, whatever it is that you can do to get yourself in front of your sphere of influence, your farm area. If it's going to be interesting to see what happens to all of the agents that were, getting their clients, paying that money. Again, it's one of those things that everybody complained about it, but then how many agents were handing them thousands of dollars. We're not talking hundreds, we're talking thousands, sometimes 5 digits a month to get those leads. Now what's going to happen? I'm not sure. We have a straggler that's lost. Let's see. We are on live in the group. Okay.
It's funny, they know we should be on and then they can't find us. So how do they know about us and not know where to find us? Maybe I'm crazy.
Know where we are.
What?
I think this person's a rather new member, a newcomer, a new nerd.
A new nerd. Okay, got it. Okay, so moving on. Two other quick things. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but on the contingency removal form, the acknowledgement has been removed. It was not on the red line version. It was not on the training that was done on new forms in December. But lo and behold, the version that is released is missing the acknowledgement. So I had asked somebody on standard forms that very question, did not hear back. It's all right. Not sure if they're still on standard forms. They may not know. Maybe they're on vacation. I don't know. But they did talk about it on Friday's town hall. And basically they said that the confirmation has never been a requirement and often caused some confusion. So the committee has chosen to move toward just removing some of the acknowledgements in places that it really is not mandatory. So similar to years ago when we saw that the initials at the bottom of the page. What are you doing over there? You're distracting.
You can't find me or us. So I'm sending.
So you're taking a picture?
We're here.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
Yeah, losing my train of thought. So years ago, we noticed that the initials started dropping off the pages, where the broker would initial the forms, and then over time, that just all went away. So this is kind of the same thing. So don't panic that it's not there. The rationale is you have other methods of confirming that you sent that information or that the information was received. So just wanted to share that info because that was something that I questioned a week or two ago myself. And then lastly, we've mentioned about the Department of Justice and the NAR agreement to the settlement. All I can relay is that there was a deadline of January 19th. So that's tomorrow. Maybe that's why I can think of new laws was tomorrow. I had that date in my head for some reason. But the initial language, I guess, is supposed to be submitted as of that date. So it's not like immediately, we're going to see all of these changes. And to be honest, I kind of don't feel like it's going to be a major change other than the MLS Publishing Commission. Will it be a major change in how we operate? Maybe it'll be a change in what we talk about, how we explain things to some of our clients, especially our buyers. But so nothing has been finalized yet. And it sounds like even the NAR Board of Directors will have to vote on adopting the new protocols or the new guidance. So we're still a little bit down the road on that.
Okay, which is good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that's gonna it's gonna be interesting. That's all I'm gonna say about that. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, we're still seeing so much fallout right now from the Code of Ethics change, the 10.5 about hate speech. I mean, there's still stuff going around where people are arguing about it and saying this, that, and the other thing. It's like, how long has this been going on now, kids? I mean, what was that? November? It was adopted in November?
Yeah.
And there's, a friend sent over, it was something floating around in the internets that somebody's trying to be a rabble rouser and say, NAR is taking away your rights to free speech. And it was like, oh my God, can you believe what's happening to us? We're losing our rights to free speech. And it's like, let me have an educational moment here.
Let's go back in time to August of 2020.
Exactly. So, I go through and I find the different not Facebook, like YouTube links. and try to explain that it's not, the First Amendment doesn't apply to voluntary membership groups, and that, they can say you can't do this if you're going to be a member. And, that it's hate speech, not just, if you're at church and say whatever it is that one says, that their beliefs are, or whatever, that could be construed as, discriminating against somebody. And it's like, no, let me educate you. And the person's like, well, thank you. I had no idea. But there's so much trash flying around out there from people just trying to get people upset about this, that, and the other thing. And, we're going to see the same thing. It's going to, when all of the DOJ stuff happens, we're going to see the same thing. It's going to be the sky's falling. We're all going to die, and people are going to sensationalize it because, that's what people do. Obviously this post that was sent to me was relatively recent, and it's somebody just drumming up trouble. That's all it was somebody drumming up trouble. They didn't know the full story. And we see this in a lot of the post in a lot of the trade publications. You're just like, boy, you guys really need something to talk about today, didn't you? And I think we're going to see that coming too. So, if you hear friends panicking, you hear colleagues panicking, maybe like the Zillow situation. Hey, he made it. Good for you, Tony. Okay. But you know what? Stop the spread of really crappy information. If you hear somebody or see somebody saying these falsehoods or half-truths just because they hear it somewhere from somebody trying to get their blood pressure up, take a minute, set them straight. Don't tell them, boy, you're ridiculous for thinking that way, because that's not the case. They're just seeing something and reacting to it. But just say, what, you might want to find out a little bit more information. There's two sides to everything, and somewhere in between the two lies the truth, and, point them in the direction of where they can find this proper information. And I did that. And the person's like, wow, I had no idea. Thank you so much for telling me this. I didn't know. And maybe that's our community service for the day today, for Martin Luther King Day. I did that yesterday. So, oh my gosh, but it's a lot of work out there, and all we can do is hope to just educate our colleagues and our friends, and make sure that we're all talking the truth instead of talking the sensationalism, because there will be a lot of sensationalism when that comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great point. And I think it's also important to note that, all those of us in this group, we know that NAR is our trade association, but the board of directors is the one that makes the decisions. And the board of directors is made up of members, realtors. And so, it's not this entity up on the ivory tower who's pushing down all of these rules and regulations. It's the governance is done by the members. And so it's not like it's a group of 10 people making the decisions for 1.4 million. I mean, there's like 800 directors from across the country. So, if people don't understand the makeup of the organization, maybe that will also help them understand that these aren't just arbitrary things that a company, a corporation is imposing on us.
Or the committee.
Or the committee. I mean, it's a pretty damn big committee, and there's a lot of opinions there. So believe me, both sides of the argument were debated very healthfully and very respectfully. That was the beauty of it. It was elsewhere where you saw a lot of negativity.
Yeah, people that weren't in the room, people that were getting the information second or third hand. A lot of it was, people whose job it is to go out and find these things and talk about them and report on them, or whatever it is that they wish to do. And it's interesting that you state about the realtors. Both Lori and I this year are not only CAR directors, which, how many CAR directors are there? 750, 800, something like that. We have an obscene amount. And it's really something to be in a room with 700 to 800 people voting on things that affects our membership every day. And not only at the CAR level, but at NAR too. I was an NAR director a couple of years in the past, and you know, so pleased that I was selected to be one this year. But it is our voices. And I think you'll see this year, if we have things come up, Lori and I are going to both want to hear what our colleagues have to say before we go and cast our votes, because sometimes these votes get down to 1 or 2 people. We have seen in, oh my gosh, a couple of our state meetings where we do a voice vote and they can't figure out, you know, if it's a yay or a nay. And then they'll do a standing vote and they're trying to count 750 people or 800 people in a room. And then they're like, no, okay, ballots. And then they got to sit there and count all the ballots. And it can be 5 people. I think we had an NAR president election be a 9-person swing. And that, you know, there was people that were not there in the room that couldn't make it, that their votes would have determined who was going to be the president, but they weren't. And so it was 9 people out of hundreds. So we want to know your opinions when it comes to, you know, when we get our agendas for the different things. We have our state meetings coming up pretty soon. So you probably are going to hear us asking about your opinions on some of the things, if there's big votes that are going to affect the way that we do our business, any legislation, stuff like that. Because this is how it happens. It's not people up there, you know, the grand committee, we shall do this, you know, that's not how this is. And I think having that knowledge of how this works, and yeah, there is staff at CAR, there is staff at NAR, they're the ones writing the legislation. They've got some of the best lobbyists out there. I'm going to use that L word because lobbying is not a bad thing, because this is how we all can have laws that are favorable to us and to homeowners, because we are the only lobbyist a homeowner has. So, you know, don't look at it as the people sitting there in the ivory tower. We're a couple of the people that, you know, are making those decisions. And I know we've got some other folks here in the group that are voting CAR directors, and even your local boards, you know, and the one person saying the committee needs to look at this. Well, maybe that person needs to get on a committee and find out how this works. Just my 2 cents.
Agreed.
Okay, so speaking of voting and stuff like that, okay, I'm going to address a comment that was just put in. Tony said, NAR should use SurveyMonkey to cast votes to all members for instant voting, no matter where you physically are. Poof. Well, you know, kind of consider that is what they do, but you need to find a director and communicate with the director. And your right as a member of a local association is to say, hey, local association, who's our NAR directors? And let those directors know what it is your thoughts are. And what
I'd like to add too, you know, it sounds like a great thing to say, hey, let's get all of the membership to weigh in on this. They do surveys all the time, and the response rate is extremely low. And so when it comes to governance, the governance is actually, the guidance for governance is mandated by law. And so for our state association and our local association, you know, we have to report to the California corporations. I can't think of what it's called right now. It's a government agency that oversees corporations. And they require that you have a board of directors. So in as much as they would want, you know, input from all members, the way the governance is required by law to be conducted is by having a board of directors. Nationally, I guess it's a federal entity that oversees the corporations. Because at the end of the day, it is a corporation, because that's how the structure has to be. But for a trade organization, you do have to comply with the requirements of the law to qualify and comply with your structure.
And anybody can get themselves into these positions. All you really have to do is volunteer, get involved, find some situation that you have a passion about, and volunteer to get on a committee at your association. And sometimes you don't even need to do that, as we have found out. Sometimes you just need an idea and you just need to run with it. But don't think that your voice doesn't matter, because your voice does matter. But if you want more involvement, you can be involved too and be helping making those decisions. Probably it's one of the most fulfilling things, that I do within the industry, is realizing, yeah, I am just one person out of 1.4 million, but one person can still do some really amazing stuff. If you feel strongly about something and you want to be involved, you want your voice heard, if you don't like the way something's going, just get involved, because really this is how this stuff happens. I mean, you look at the Fair Housing and Discrimination Advisory that came out this year. That wasn't something that the CAR lawyers came up with. That was something that 5 realtors came up with and submitted to the executive officers, who took it and ran with it. And now we have an advisory out there. You don't have to be a staff member. You don't have to be a director. Anybody can make suggestions. Anybody can be involved. And as Yvonne points out, you don't have to be a director to go to CAR meetings. You don't have to be a director to go to NAR meetings. Anybody can get involved if they want.
That's right. I mean, you can't just say, I want to be an NAR director. I mean, there is a process, but
It's
you're right. You can attend and you can raise your hand. You may not be able to vote, but your voice can be heard. And then, you make sure that the people that do have the ability to vote, cast the vote that makes the decision. Make sure you share your thoughts and your opinions on the topic, so that they have that point of view when they take into consideration how they want to vote.
Yeah.
And it's on us as directors of at any of these levels, it's on us to do our homework and make sure that we fully understand what's being asked of us and the implications. And that's why, it sounds like a ton of people, and it really is, but we all come from different experiences and different areas, even within our own state. There's so many different ways of doing business and so many different nuances about what goes on in a particular marketplace or the entire county, that we don't always know. We know our own experience. We don't know that, well, this could happen in this other area. Well, we don't know that. I can't make a decision for Northern California because I don't live there. I don't work there. I don't know the specific dynamics that go on there, and how a decision that I might make that seems perfectly legitimate for Southern California could be completely devastating for Northern California. So that's why we rely on having such a large group, so that we are assured that all of these points are able to come out.
And one thing I do want to say is, I believe the last meeting, the NAR directors, board of directors meeting, was a closed meeting. And I think that they do that just to, well, I'm not sure exactly why they did it. I was a little disappointed because I wasn't a director, so I couldn't listen in. I'm pretty sure the CAR is probably the same way, just due to the number of people. But you can go to the committee meetings, you can go to the forums. If there's something that you're really super interested in, whether it's like risk management or, tech issues or investment, housing policy, or this year we're going to have diversity and fair housing forums and all kinds of good stuff out there. You can go. You just log on to the CAR site, and they have the business meeting schedule. Find out what they are, register for them, and you can attend and you can listen in and hear what's being discussed. And a lot of times you have to be a member of the committee before you're allowed to speak. because that's the way things are. But you can hear how these decisions come about, how, like the Prop 19 thing. Right now, we're hearing all kinds of fallout about this, that, and the other thing. If you were in any of the legislative meetings where it was discussed, you would have heard the genesis of it, why they did what they did, the pros and the cons brought up by the membership, the voting that took place, and then it had to go to the next level and run through the same thing with that. And then it gets ran through executive committee before it gets to the floor to be voted on by the board of directors. So it's not like somebody's just coming up with agenda items. This stuff is going through committee after committee after committee. And, this is how it happens. It's not like somebody's snapping their fingers and making, crazy decisions. You can see how the sausage is made. Sometimes it's pretty, sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not. That's right. That's right.
But it's been some of the most rewarding volunteer work I've done, which sounds kind of weird, but it's just good to know that you made a difference in your profession. And I highly, highly recommend anybody who's in this group right now, just go on to CAR. The meetings are going to start, I think, at the end of January. Certain forums are going to go off. Look and see what's there. Look and see what's interesting to you. And, let us know what you think, because I think it's good for us to be a little bit more well-rounded.
Absolutely. I know it's made me a better real estate professional by being involved.
Definitely. Definitely. You can just be smarter than the average bear.
All right, we've been on our soapbox about it long enough now.
Kind of passionate about it, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, good. That's all I had. That's
all I've got too, other than, let's see, Farah says, I love this. We welcome input. And Farah Wilder, CAR's new Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, is doing amazing things at CAR. And one of the first things kicking off the meetings is, I want to say, hair housing. Listen to me, I need more coffee. Fair housing forum. So we'll get some information posted in the group to do that. But that would be just right out of the gate. And we'd love for you to join us because it's a new event going on there. So we got good stuff. We got good stuff coming. So
yeah,
anyhow, it's 9:57. What do you think? Do we call it a day?
I think we should.
I think we should. I'm going to go see what's happening on the internets at 10 o'clock because, well, to be perfectly honest, I always miss it. Well, one last thing. If you guys are still here, put in the box, would you, because I'm seeing people, still having trouble finding us for some reason. The Facebook Live doesn't pop up readily. And I don't want to sit there and tell you how to set your alerts and do this and that and, all of the crazy stuff. Do you guys think we should have this as like right now, Lori and I are in a Zoom webinar. So, because it's clearer. It just looks a little better. I'm sorry, the Zoom. There's a huge difference between how the broadcast is. Would you guys rather register and be doing this on as part of the Zoom in like a webinar thing where you can still communicate? And Tony says, start the live from inside the event page. I've tried it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And so that's why my only hesitance is maybe we'll play around if you guys are cool with it. The next meeting we'll do a link because anyhow, we said last meeting of the month, which was going to be drawing month, that we would have everybody be able to come on. So we'll do a registration for next week, and then maybe we can kind of discuss what we want to do because this is like for you guys. So yeah, watch out for the link.
Send me whatever link I need to be there. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yes, it can be kind of crazy. Okay, well, we're going to do a Zoom and Facebook Live next week, but you guys can be in here too. And based on that, it's 9:58. So we're going to close this puppy down. You guys go out and have a wonderful holiday kind of today. And we're happy that you guys all took a little time out of your morning to join us.
Yep. Thank you for being here. See you all.
See you later. Sell a house.